The Midnight Light Paper has just been released, answering the Cardano community's burning questions about the first ever partner chain to use Cardano SPOs for decentralized infrastructure. Now, as a part of today's video, I want to break down what we know about the Dust token, the Night token, the architecture, and the roadmap, and when we can expect Midnight to hit the main net. What's up, Ada Nation? Welcome to Dapp Central, your home for everything blockchain and crypto. I'm your host here, Fareed. Again, we've got some big news here with the official Night paper being released, which is the light paper for the Midnight Network, a data privacy and a data protection-based blockchain, which Charles Hoskinson has dubbed a fourth generation blockchain, right behind Bitcoin, ETH, Cardano, all leading into the first three generations. As a part of today's video, I want to break down everything that we know, which includes the different use cases for Midnight. I also want to discuss the Night and the Dust token, one being a shielded token and the second being an unshielded token, exactly how they work. And then I want to talk about the compact programming language. In addition, we've got a sneak peek given the fact that Lace will have an extension or support built in for the Midnight Network. And then we'll also be discussing the Midnight architecture, their ecosystem, and last but not least, their roadmap in the highly anticipated Dust airdrop. As always, if you enjoy content like this, please make sure to smash that thumbs up on the way in. I do my best to give you guys all of the timely news updates here, with this particular drop of information being one of them. If you want more content, consider subscribing to the channel. And last but not least, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, make sure to leave those down below. I'll be monitoring those questions in order to provide you guys more responses. Let's jump right on in here as a brief refresher. If you're not familiar with Midnight, it's basically a brand new blockchain that aims to leverage what has now been dubbed by IOG and Charles Hoskinson as the Partnerchain framework or the Partnerchain model. What this basically allows for the community to receive are brand new blockchains to support. And what this also allows is for brand new networks or brand new partner chains to quickly spin up without necessarily having to worry about decentralization and block production. So here in this particular graphic, we've got the Cardano asset settlement layer, which, as we can see here, is now governed by SIP number 1694, which includes the management of ADA and all of the Cardano native assets. It also includes the EUTXO model, Plutus, Ouroboros, Babel fees, etc. And what we're going to have moving forward with this brand new partner chain model are brand new blockchains, for example, like Midnight listed here, which are considered their own blockchains with their own tokenomic, their own transaction logic, their own consensus model, and that'll all be backed by multiple other networks. And what I mean by that is that in this particular scenario, you could imagine Cardano SPOs providing the decentralized security through block minting for all of the partner chains that come out in the future. Now, Midnight is just one blockchain, but imagine Cardano SPOs being able to provide decentralized security for 30, 40, 50 brand new partner chains as the model grows. This offers a huge incentive for Cardano SPOs. It also provides security to all the partner chains, and it provides a brand new revenue stream for delegators who are now backing those SPOs. Now, Cardano is just the first network that will be supporting the Midnight partner chain framework, but you could also imagine node operators coming in from Bitcoin, node operators coming in from Ethereum, all being able to back and power the partner chain framework. So this is a huge bit of news here in terms of just how blockchains have historically been run. And we're going to jump right on in here. So as always, the links to the official documentation will be left down below. We have the executive summary, which talks about the use cases, the token utility, the architecture, the ecosystem, the roadmap, and last but not least, some closing information. So taking a look at the executive summary here, it states developers, and this basically breaks down the problem that Midnight is solving. Developers are facing decision fatigue regarding the best ways to manage the volumes of data transiting through their applications and databases. Customers are also demanding more control over ownership of their data and IP, while businesses are looking to both protect and monetize data while facing increasing liability from leaks and breaches that risk exposing their sensitive data and IP. So how does Midnight fix this? Well, the Midnight Network, also known as just Midnight, exist to remove the barriers preventing organizations and service providers from leveraging blockchain technology while offering programmable data protection with selective disclosure. The Midnight Network resolves the business challenge of choosing between data protection, ownership, and utilization. Scrolling down, we have a little bit about the Midnight Network, again, stating the fact that this uses zero knowledge or ZK proofs, which offer utility without compromising data protection or ownership. And then in addition to providing a transformative approach to data governance, Midnight also empowers organizations to monetize their business intelligence without revealing the underlying data. So what I love about this is from a builder's perspective or from a developer's perspective, they'll be able to work with a massive data set where they can now have data available to them in order for them to manipulate it. However, all of that data will not give away any of the personal information of the people that have created or that are underneath that data. So from a builder's perspective, they're free to build with a huge data set. From an end user's perspective, their data is never disclosed. And then from a business perspective, imagine blockchains that need this data that maybe jump onto Midnight, grab that data for a fee, and then are able to use that in their Dapp without having to worry about anybody basically paying the price for the data that they've bought, right? So hopefully that makes sense. So again, this breaks down some of the benefits for app developers, the fact that it's learnable, versatile, composable, and scalable. And then we have for app operators, the fact that they get protected data that's stable and compliant. And then for ecosystem partners, they get top-notch network security, data security, and the fact that this will all be interoperable. Now, one thing I want to highlight here is the fact that it states that the Midnight roadmap includes support for modular app architectures, allowing developers to benefit from Midnight's data protection to create hybrid apps that continue to leverage their native chain's key capabilities and transaction settlement. So imagine a scenario where maybe there's a protocol or a platform that needs a lot of information about health patients or health records. That data using Midnight and ZK proofs will all be hidden, right? But the data will be publicly available. So the underlying patient information, you won't know, but you'll be able to at least see that this is a verifiable data set. And then as a business, being able to jump onto Midnight, grab that information, and then plug that back directly into your app, which may not necessarily live on the Midnight network. So that's a huge, huge step here in the right direction. Scrolling down, we've got the architecture where it breaks down sort of the current state of operation where there is the misuse of sensitive data. It talks about how the existing versions of blockchains have come about to fix a little bit of that, but there's still some issues in the sense that anybody can view an entire blockchain's history, for example, like Cardano. And then now moving over into the model that Midnight has adopted, where you're still able to get all the benefits and the security of blockchain without having to compromise privacy. So this is really the best of both worlds. Now, scrolling down here, it breaks down some of the key use cases. I'll skip that for now, but let's talk about some of the juicy stuff, which begins with the token utility. So it states here, Midnight involves two tokenized assets working together. The first is known as Knight, which is an unshielded token for governance, consensus participation, and block production rewards. So it sounds like Knight will be the token that goes out to Cardano SPOs early on as a reward for operating or for helping out with the block production and the block verification on the Midnight network. In addition, we have the Dust token, which acts as a capacity access shielded resource that operates the chain activity, also known as the fuel. So this basically operates sort of like ADA on Cardano, where ADA is needed in order to make any transaction. The Dust token will be the equivalent of that on the Midnight network. So Knight will be a token that can be pushed out of the ecosystem, while Dust only behaves and only can be interacted directly on the Midnight network. Continuing on, it states, Knight is easily accessible and helps to ensure network security by operating as the reward token for block producers. Again, with Cardano being the first network to act as the supporting chain for partner chains, that means that this will be the token that goes back to Cardano stake pool operators. Knight will initially exist as a Cardano native asset, or CNA, benefiting from Cardano's trusted infrastructure and ecosystem activity. Knight will also offer extended functions such as network governance. Now moving over into the dust token, it states Midnight's transaction energy, also known as dust, is a capacity access shielded resource used to facilitate transactions on the Midnight network and to also ensure that transaction metadata is protected to prevent correlation. So basically, to prevent anybody being able to tie back the fact that one particular user or how a particular bit of data was actually derived. And so again, this is really done to make sure that people can confidently provide their personal information on Midnight and know that once that's published, that it's publicly available, but that the details and the private information that is not publicly accessible. So moving on, it states that dust behaves like energy in the physical world as it decays over time. And so as an example, it has value, but it can't be stored. And dust also can't be transferred, thus addressing regulatory concerns that are commonplace with shielded tokens or assets. Now, the intent of this particular design is to maintain predictability of fees for those transacting on the network. The team does also state that they'll be providing more information about the dust and the night tokens in the full white paper. Right now, keep in mind that this is just a light paper. Now, reading here, we've got an interesting model, and this has taken me a little bit to understand, but hopefully I can break this down quickly and simply enough for you to be able to understand how this actually works as an ecosystem. So imagine that you have some sort of private data, which is available here. You're able to generate a proof as a user, and then you can actually submit a transaction with that proof to create what's known as a brand new commitment. Now, when you generate that proof, all of your information is basically digitized, but then it's also packaged in a way that the data that you provided can be verified without giving away your identity. And so with the unshielded data, this now allows for everybody in the ecosystem to be able to see that data set, and they can verify that that data is accurate without knowing all of the personal information about who actually provided that data and how they provided that data. That's where the ZK proofs come in. Now, there's also the shielded ledger, right? And so once you provide that transaction in the proof and you create that new commitment, that data now gets added to what is known as the ledger or the data tree. And so again, this allows for anybody who's building, who's coming in after you, to then be able to grab that data. They can then manipulate it on their own as well, and they can generate a new proof, and then they can also resubmit that as well. So as a very simple example, think of, for example, a hospital. They might have 1,000 different patients, and they maybe have been doing some studies, and they want to release a lot of that information without giving away the privacy of the patients that they actually grab that information from. So they're able to take that private data, they can generate a proof, they can submit that, and their entire data set is now visible to anybody using Midnight. And so people can come in and learn about the patients, etc., without necessarily having to get the patient's name, the patient's birth date, the patient's age, all of that other additional information that they have to keep private. And so once that information is available, it's then added to the tree of knowledge, for lack of better terms here. And then maybe another company wants to come by and then they grab that data set. They might want to enhance it or do whatever that they want to do. And then again, they generate a brand new proof, which is also again submitted, which is visible to the public. And then that again gets added and fed back into the tree. So hopefully that breaks down some of the life cycle where anybody can come in, grab an existing data set, manipulate it like they want, create a proof, submit it to everybody else. And then that basically continues to grow and evolve as time goes on. Now, scrolling down, next thing that we have is the architecture for Midnight, where it states that in order to ensure that the Midnight network is easily accessible to a large cohort of developers and to enable easy prototyping, Midnight is built using TypeScript, which is a widely known programming language with API definitions for smart contract integration, and a TypeScript-based domain-specific language, also known as Compact, to describe contracts. Now, looking here at some of the architecture, we have on the left-hand side, the contract specifications built out using Compact. That'll be put or fed into a compiler, which will then be fed into a web browser. And then we have the actual Midnight Dapp code, which is also fed into that web browser. And then that is all interacting with the Midnight Lace Chrome extension. So this is the first bit of alpha here. It looks like the Midnight team will be collaborating with the same team that is developing Lace, which both of them are tied back to IOG. So it makes perfect sense there. And then that'll all be tied to a blockchain indexer and a Midnight node. Scrolling down, we have a little bit more information about the Compact language, where it states that Compact supports developers who require data protection and general purpose smart contract functionality without the need to sacrifice decentralization characteristics. Compact allows smart contracts to bridge public and private data, where data owners can now use Compact smart contracts to interact with both on-chain public state and off-chain private state data. So as a developer, you're able to come in and grab publicly available data on chain. So for example, let's say again, using that hospital example, that a hospital has already published data on Midnight, I can come in there, I can grab that data, and I can basically work and play around with that data on chain, or I can also use Compact to build out my own data set off chain and then bring that on chain when the time is right. It also states that other parties can use Compact smart contracts to interact only with the public state in a permissible way. So if you're not a developer, you're able to join the Midnight network and you can quickly get access to the publicly available data and you can mess around with it that way. It states here, using zero-knowledge snark proofs, a Compact smart contract can attest to the private data correctness maintained by the user. This allows all users of the Midnight blockchain to transact and to also be able to keep sensitive data secret. So again, this is the real power of zero-knowledge proofs, where I, as an end user, can jump onto Midnight, I can grab a data set and know that that data is accurate and that it's verifiable without necessarily knowing who and how the actual data was provided. So this again is a little bit more technical, but it does break down how Compact works, and it breaks down the compilation process and how that data is proved using ZK circuits. Scrolling down, we have a little bit about the ecosystem here, which highlights some of the benefits for developers, block producers, and app operators. And the biggest thing here, again, for block producers or SPOs is the fact that they'll now be rewarded with the Night token anytime that they verify or that they mint a block. Scrolling down just a little bit here, we've got a little bit more around the roadmap for Midnight. So it talks about the DevNet, which is already launched. I believe we're now on the testnet, where they'll be incorporating hard fork capabilities. They'll also be adding the support for the Night token, which is the unshielded token. And then they'll also be incorporating their proving system and then adding the ability to upgrade the ZK snark capabilities. Following that, we're expecting the launch of the mainnet with token bridges, which of course will be a bridge that allows for Night to flow between the Midnight network and the Cardano network. But imagine as we get more ecosystems that can operate as node operators to support partner chains, for example, like node operators from the Bitcoin ecosystem or even the Ethereum ecosystem. We'll also then see bridges between partner chains and those networks, because the Night token also have to be distributed into those ecosystems as well. Now, looking to the future, we've got updates here surrounding multi-resource consensus, custom spending logic, as well as ZK recursion for smart contracts, and then also ZK recursion for chain states, and then a ZK-based trustless bridge. So I believe that'll bring us to the end here for today's video, breaking down the Midnight light paper, or the Night paper as they call it. But this is a huge opportunity here, fixing a big problem that we've seen with data breaches. For example, think of credit bureaus, think of different social media platforms where we've seen data breaches. We've also even seen data breaches with telecommunication companies. For example, I think like Verizon has had some leaks and data breaches, where a platform like Midnight fixes that problem. Again, this allows for big data to be disseminated in a way without losing privacy, which I think right now, especially with AI and all of the increase in computing power, will be a need and a must in the near future. So I'm excited to be able to be at this early stage of midnight. One thing I haven't touched on is the night airdrop, now that we know that night is the unshielded token. But if I'm not mistaken, this will be done in a way where people will have to engage with the Midnight Network in order to be able to be eligible for that night airdrop. Now, me as a stake pool operator here in Cardano, I'll definitely be operating and supporting the Midnight Network as the first ever partner chain. And anybody delegating to the Dapp Central Stake Pool would therefore be eligible to earn some of that night reward. So definitely make sure to go ahead and support the Dapp Central Stake Pool if you are interested in becoming a part of the Midnight community. But I'm definitely going to be doing my due diligence here, learning more about Midnight, and hopefully providing you guys with more value as the Partnerchain model comes out. And of course, as more blockchains build using the Partnerchain model, I'll definitely be doing my part to support those as well, meaning that delegators to the Dapp Central Stake Pool will also be earning those additional rewards from those other networks that we provide security to. So that'll do it here for today's video, a pretty technical one, but hopefully you guys have found this to be helpful, breaking down the Midnight Night Paper. As always, if you've enjoyed content like this, I would appreciate you if you could smash that thumbs up if it's your first time stopping by the channel and you want more, consider subscribing. And last but not least, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, make sure to go ahead and leave those down below. That said, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.